you can work out the true 67 Hail fans, John. They're the ones that are signed on at 1:30 on a Friday afternoon watching us two chat. And there's 29 of them on at the moment. I think we need to send them some money or something because they're the true fanboys.
Yeah, we're here for a surprise lunchtime Friday show. Did you even shout it out on the channel? I think this is completely out of the blue.
Completely out the blue. Basically what's happened is me and John like to chat about Celtic, and we've not had any games over the last week to get to do that, so we thought we would get together. It's going up. We're up at 50 now. We'll be up at 1,000 in no time, John.
We're box office, Hamish. Don't worry about it.
Well, don't know about that, but you certainly are. Listen, we're going to chat about what's going on at Celtic at the moment because I feel international breaks are a good time to kind of pause and take stock of what's happened and just chill out a bit. None of those heated debates right after a 2-1 defeat to Motherwell or something like that. We can chill out, talk quietly, talk sensibly, which would be a first, I think, for this channel, and discuss what's happening, basically, John. This is your kind of main idea. We're going to stick this out on as an audio-only podcast as well. I should point that out in case you're listening to this and wondering what the hell's going on. This is taken from originally a YouTube video. How are you feeling, John?
I'm feeling good, yeah. Sometimes I just like taking a big picture view of what's going on at Celtic, and when you're in the heat of match to match on a Thursday to a Sunday, you don't get a moment to think. You're always bogged down in the details of a specific match. I think one week I was absolutely obsessed with Albion Ayeti for about 7 days, so it's good to just put that in the back burner, think about Celtic as a whole, think about where we're going, and have a bit of chat.
How do you feel then at the moment? It's been tough the last month. I think that last international break was really difficult. Injury crisis, and it was a crisis. Results in general were pretty poor. Drop points at home to Dundee United, losing at Livingston, getting absolutely hammered off of Leverkusen wasn't pretty either. But it finished in quite a positive way. I felt that even, from about an hour until the 85-minute mark, I was petrified that we were going to drop more points and end in an even worse place. But the team found a way to win, and I feel like it's just calmed everyone down a little bit. We've gone into the international break feeling, well, me certainly feeling buoyant. I'm looking forward to the upcoming games. Yeah.
I'm not sure about buoyant, right? So, but I'm not despondent either. I thought it was obviously a really important win at Pittodrie. I mean, if we'd drop points there, I think this would be a much longer 2 weeks than we're currently facing. I think everyone recognises it got a bit absurd for me. Like, I'm not gonna lie. For me, some of the chat around Postecoglou and Ange and his job got a bit absurd at one point, in the sense of, you go on social media, you go on the forums, etc. after the game, and there's people calling for him to leave his job. And I just thought that was always ridiculous. I still think that's ridiculous. We still get people in the comments who say that even, this week. And I just think people need to just chill a bit and just, give him a chance to get a team on the park, first and foremost. Because when you look at the work that was done in the transfer window, and then the injuries that were suffered directly after the transfer window shut, he's not had his preferred 11 on the park once so far this season. Not once. And I don't think that's, it's not really anyone's fault. It's just the situation that we're in. And I think until we get a run of games with his preferred team and a preferred formation, I don't think we're really going to know what to expect from this Ange Postecoglou team. So I'm hopeful that getting those important players back gives us the boost that we're needing it to give us, because there's no denying that being 6 points behind in the table at this point is difficult. But at the same time, I can't think of another period at Celtic that's been as grim or has had us such with our backs against the wall so much in recent times, and we're still only 6 points behind, even having suffered a derby defeat. So we're 3 points behind Rangers with regards to the other results. So I'm not too despondent. I think we're in a good position. I think we've seen the worst Celtic will be this season, and we're only going to get better.
I think Celtic will get to where they want to be under Ange. I think we've seen enough in his early weeks and months to suggest that he's not an idiot, he's not a nobody, as some people like to play it that way. He knows what he's doing. he's an experienced manager. Yes, he makes mistakes. He's made, for me, a lot of high-profile ones in big games so far, and I think that's stuff that we have to see rectified going forward. But I've seen enough from the team and from him to suggest that he can build a Celtic team to be proud of. But the big question, as far as I'm concerned, is how long will it take and how much pain are Celtic fans prepared to put up with? And I don't mean, pain's maybe a strong word, how much kind of toil are Celtic fans prepared to put up with? Because Celtic fans in general, I think, are already frustrated, the vast majority, and rightly so, at the amount of drop points we've had in the league this season. I don't think even the most probably negative fan at the start of the season wouldn't have expected us to lose 3 of our first 7 games and draw another one. I know we're in a terrible situation, and I know he's putting a team together, and I know he's had loads of injuries, but I think even by that logic, it's been a poor start to the league. But in terms of performances and when it's been good, that Alkmaar home game's the obvious one that stands out, Dundee, St Mirren at home, it's been amazing, and I've seen enough in that time to suggest that Ange will get this right. But it's just, how long is it going to take for him to get to exactly where he wants the team to be, and can he keep winning games as that happens? And I honestly think the jury is still out on that. Looking at these fixtures going forward, I'll get them up on screen in a minute, but we've got Motherwell and Hibs away, even Dundee away. These are games that I don't think any Celtic fan can expect Celtic to just go and rock up and win, because the team seems to be a totally different team when they play away from home. But if he finds a way to come through this next chunk and win games, and by the next international break, if we are a couple of points closer at the top of the league, then I think he will have bought, a bit more respect isn't the word. He'll have got a bit more buy-in from the Celtic support, and people will be prepared to give him more of a chance, I think.
But anyone who thought this was going to be fixed in a matter of a couple of months were probably deluding themselves from the start. I just don't think that was ever realistic. And you can say, we should win every game in Scotland, but we know it's not as easy as that. And, if you look at our fixtures that we've had, some of our hardest games of the season. We had Hearts away, and they're proven to be a decent outfit this season. We had Livingston away, which we've not won, they're even, going back to Brendan Rodgers, that's not unique to Ange. And then we had the Rangers away as well, and I thought we played decently against Rangers at Ibrox. So I think that it's too early to get too despondent. It's a long season. There's another 30 games to go. And I think, eventually something will click with this team in terms of getting consistent results. Might not be this next little window between the international breaks, but I think that Aberdeen result will have given everyone a lot of confidence, definitely.
Yeah, there's a comment in there saying it's not a question of enduring pain, it's about seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Team are fair weather players, not fighters, which I think, to be honest, that final comment might sound harsh, but I think the jury's still very much out on this Celtic team being fighters, players who can win a game when they play poorly. Aberdeen was the first sign of that. But you spoke at the start there about the scrutiny Ange has been under from a lot of Celtic fans, and I think there's different places where different parts of the Celtic support congregate, and there's different emotions are played into in those different areas, and forums and social media, Twitter, for example, especially are significant ones where fans are really impatient and they want things immediately. I think in different areas, like even our comments in general, I think there's a lot more understanding. I think, in other parts, podcasts and stuff, there's generally more understanding of what Ange has inherited and how long it may take for Celtic and him to fix this. But I genuinely do feel relatively positive. I just hope we can go on a run now, and I hope we can get that feel-good factor. Because see, when it was good in that home run of 5 games, we were on top of the world at that stage. Take me back to those 2 weeks, because that was a good Celtic team playing, for me, as well as Celtic had played since Brendan Rodgers left the club. And if we can get back to those levels, which they must have in them, when McGregor and Kyogo are back fully fit, and when we can add other players, Juranovic, etc., James Forrest, we can get back to those levels. It's just those away games for me are the big worry. But I suppose we're just hoping that we've turned the corner after that Aberdeen game, that if there is such a thing as just winning ugly and that just breeding more winning ugly, then hopefully that's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even about winning ugly, is it? It's just about showing up at the critical moments. That's what we've been missing this season. I think some of the chances we've created have been fine, and it's just, again, it's a bit like last season in the sense that missing absolutely massive chances. And some of the, looking all right defensively for most of the game and then just completely switching off at a critical moment. It is a bit of a puzzle. But, the reason people were so upset during last season and during the Neil Lennon era, the tail end of it, was because they couldn't really see something of the future. It wasn't just about the performances we were seeing were abysmal, but there was nothing we were building towards. At least at the moment, even if there's poor results and poor performances. And not every Ange game has been a blowaway performance by any means, but you can just sense that we are building towards something, or at least Ange has a vision of what he wants, and there's enough belief that we can get there with the right players. Under Neil Lennon, it was just all aimless, and it just seemed to be spiraling downwards rather than building upwards. And although the progress has probably been a little slower than everyone wants, I think it's still progress. And I think it's, when you look at where the club was on the 1st of June, when, right at the start, compared to where it is now, I would say it was in a better place. The squad is in a better place than then for the most part. And we just need to wait and see now. It's a wait and see kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard all the stories from Australia and Japan about Ange, and they just absolutely love him over there. And they are totally convinced that he will get it right, and I'm always prepared to take them on their word on that one. But as I say, it's easy just putting out that vision of he will get it right. It's much harder thinking that way after you've lost 1-0 at Livingston. And I'll admit I'm the most I don't know if irrational is the word to use, but after defeats I'm quite kind of knee-jerk reaction type way of dealing with it. And it's difficult when you see Celtic struggling, because we're so used to Celtic just winning every single game basically, and challenging for every single trophy. And over the last 18 months that just hasn't been the case. But I honestly think if Ange gets this right over the next couple of months, this next international break I think is very big. This next chunk before the next international break is very big, and I think if we can, get a bit of goodwill from supporters, go on a good run, I think we could be on to something. So I'm just hoping that's how it played out. I had a comment there I wanted to bring up. I can't find it, but it was basically to do with the fact that Rangers or whoever wins the league this season will be entitled, will be entitled to the Champions League money. And Owen certainly thinks that's affecting people's judgment. I think there's merit in that as well. I think for me the worst fear I've got as a Celtic fan right now is that we put a building season in here. We're building towards something. We don't quite win the league. Rangers win the league and bank that automatic Champions League money, that spot, and do what we didn't do and build on success, and we're chasing them for years. Now I don't know how likely that is to happen, but it's certainly my top fear at the moment is that we just struggle this year. Fair enough, Ange's first season, but then from next season onwards, when they've got all that money, Ange just can't live with them.
Things change quickly in football though, and I don't think them getting their money would make a big difference to them, but I don't think it automatically puts them streaking ahead of us. They barely bought a player during the summer, and they've got issues of their own in that squad, so it's really about them. But I think if it does come to that, then it's not Ange that should be blamed for that. It's Celtic's failure to plan ahead. And if you go onto the Celtic board page on the Celtic official website, it talks about a 5-year plan, and that the club are always working towards a 5-year plan. I've never seen any evidence of a 5-year plan at Celtic. I've never heard that communicated by anyone senior at the club. I've never seen any sort of vision for that detailed. So I don't think there is a 5-year plan. I don't think there has been. And I think, the board and the club should have seen this situation coming. The coefficient thing's been a thing for a while. Everyone knows that this year is the year that there's an automatic entry into the group stages. So you could blame the club for that. I don't think that's Ange's fault at all. The fact is that at the end of last season, we literally had half a squad and another two of our star players who wanted away, who were promised to be let go last summer. So that's what Ange had to deal with, and that's what he's still currently pretty much firefighting with, or has been firefighting with over the last 6 weeks or so, because the injury showed up the depth of that squad and showed that it wasn't good enough. So if we do lose the league this year, as long as there's progress, I don't see any great need for massive changes if it's going in the right direction. But any failure will be the failure of Celtic and the board.
It's spectacular, isn't it, the mismanagement when you look at it, that even if we'd have won the 10 in a row last season, we would still have found ourselves in an awful position this year. It might not have been quite as bad, but we would still have been in a position where so many players would have been leaving the club and would have had half a squad. Belly getting in touch, thanks for the wee fiver there. It normally takes Ange 2 years to build his teams. Give him time, I believe. I certainly think, I speak for me and I speak for you, we fully do believe in Ange, and we just need to win games now, and we just need to continue to see the potential, the light at the end of the tunnel, that this Celtic team can be great. Will we chat about Kyogo a little bit?
Yeah.
He's had some comments to make. He played for Japan, I think yesterday or the day before. They actually lost again, but he came through the game okay, and he's actually been speaking after the match, basically saying he has no problem with his knee at all. He thanked the Celtic medical staff, which is maybe a first, given how they've got on lately, no disrespect, but the good news is obviously that Kyogo is fit, ready to go, barring any unfortunate accidents in the game against Australia. He'll be back and ready to fire for Celtic, and he's an absolutely huge player.
Yeah, I mean, the big fear, he was kind of, people may be worried that he was rushed back into the Celtic team against Leverkusen and then Aberdeen, and obviously after the Leverkusen game, Japan called him up late to the international squad, and that's a concern because that's where he picked up his injury last time. But I think, another way of looking at it is this couple of games could actually be good for Celtic in the sense that he was out for a few weeks. He needs to get that touch and that sharpness back, and minutes on the pitch for Japan aren't going to be the worst thing in the world. He didn't start yesterday, he came off the bench for half an hour, so that's not really much of an issue. The travel's not ideal, but he was in Jeddah yesterday, and now he's flying off to Saitama in Japan to play Australia. So there's a fair bit of travel involved, but I don't think it should be too much of an issue, and hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing bad happens in that game against Australia. That's a big game, so he'll be desperate to play and give us all for it, but I think he will be coming back and ready to take Scottish football by storm again.
And he is absolutely huge for us. He's infectious, isn't he? He's a great player, and he's so important to the way Ange wants to play, both defensively, pressing the game, and also attacking wise. But even away from the stuff he does on the pitch, he's just infectious. The way he goes around, his smile, his attitude, almost similar to Jeremy Frimpong's impact at Celtic maybe 18 months ago in terms of the way he came in, and it just seemed to raise everyone at the club. It was almost like a new guy coming in, and we can't believe how good this guy is. He raised the spirits of the players, he raised the performance levels of the players, and I think Kyogo can do that to an even greater extent. He's already done it this season, and we're just a totally different team when he's there. Him and McGregor coming back, we already saw a big difference, I felt, in the Leverkusen game, even though we lost 4-0. I thought McGregor had a good game, and I thought Kyogo had a good game. And these two players, I think Celtic are pretty reliant on these two players at the moment, but I would rather have those two players in the team and be a two-man team than not have them at all. McGregor also is in the Scotland squad. He might get a couple of games as well. Be interesting actually to see if he starts on Saturday against Israel, because he's an important player for Steve Clarke, but they've also got something Celtic don't have, which is options in midfield. Yeah,
but I thought McGregor was their best player at last time, Scotland's best player, and I think if Steve Clarke is anything about him at all, he'll be starting Callum McGregor tomorrow afternoon. Just my personal opinion. I think Callum McGregor's an exceptional player, and I think he gives a lot to that Scotland team as well as the Celtic team. But yeah, it's just you just want the players back. We've got Motherwell. It's a difficult game away to Motherwell. who have been decent so far in the early stage of this season. They'll be fancying that game. And yeah, there's the schedule there. Motherwell, Ferencváros, St Johnstone, Hibernian, and Livingston. Ferencváros away and Dundee away. I mean, that to me, I'm looking at that schedule and I don't think that's as scary as the one we've just had.
No.
I mean, the Hibernian away is obviously a huge match given the way they've started their season, given the way they performed against Rangers last week. But you're looking St Johnstone and Livingston, two fairly tough home games, but Livingston are a far different prospect at Celtic Park compared to at the Tony Macaroni. So I've got confidence we can go on a wee run here and pick up a few consistent results. It's a huge month again, but I'm hopeful. Definitely hopeful.
It's exciting games as well, isn't it, though? I mean, how many games at the end of last season did we have that were just meaningless training games? And I know part of that was because there was no fans there, but it was also, as you said earlier, it was games with no direction, no hope. You were just ticking a box watching the game. All of those 7 games are all crackers. I mean, Dundee away. When was the last time we went to Dens Park? That would be a great game. The 2 Ferencváros games are basically, I think, a playoff to get into the Conference League. Now, whether you actually want to be in the Conference League or not, there's certainly a debate there. I've kind of to and froed whether I would like to be part of it or whether I'd rather just focus on the league. But they're games for the coefficient as well, and it's a great chance for us to maybe take 4 points from those 2 Ferencváros games, and even the home games as well, as you say. St Johnstone coming to Celtic Park, a team that won 2 domestic trophies last year. Livy, a bit of revenge. So bring it on, is what I say. I can't wait for it. Anything else before we move on to a contentious issue featuring 3 letters and a lot of that kind of signalling?
No, you can move on to that. That's fine.
It is VAR, in case you've not guessed. I believe they're having a meeting today. Key Scottish figures. It's used in the likes of Ukraine, Slovakia, Israel, and even Kosovo, but Scotland doesn't have it yet. Just in case you're new to the world of VAR, it's used for, I think, 4 different key decisions: goals, penalties, red cards, and cases of mistaken identity. So it's not used for everything. It's not used for like a free kick outside the box. It's only used for key issues: goals, penalties, red cards, and mistaken identity. And the chat is that it could be coming to Scotland very soon. I don't know if we've ever really spoken about VAR at all. I don't think we have. John, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it should be used in Scottish football, just in the sense that, you know, almost every other country in Europe is heading towards it or is already using it. And I think anything that gives us a kind of level playing field in terms of making that jump to Europe and stuff, we need to get used to this. The players need to get used to it. It will be different. I hope it'll be a lot more successful than its implementation in England, which I thought has been ludicrous, or at least was to begin with. I think this season there's not been too many complaints about it, which is good to see. I think they're being a little bit more lenient with what they use on, or you know, and not for certain things that were kind of pulling up seemed to be a bit too much. UEFA use it well in the UEFA competitions. If it's used like that here, I don't have much problem with it. But what I do have a problem with is that I don't think it will change the standard of Scottish refereeing at all, and that's the concern, is that it's still going to be Scottish referees using this. I thought Bobby Madden last week at Postecoglou was horrendous. I thought he lost control of the match, and I thought the amount of fouls he blew for Celtic were ridiculous. I know Celtic press a lot, but you know, 27 fouls to concede is absurd. You know, we went dirty in that game, and he was whistling for everything, and VAR doesn't stop that. So you know, that kind of level of refereeing consistency that you want, I think still won't be there, and I think that will still cause issues. And I don't think the drama and the chat will go away. I mean, even if you look at the Ryan Porteous incident at Ibrox last week, I've seen a million different opinions on that from a million different people, and the debates are going to go on with or without VAR.
Yeah, Neil Doncaster actually a couple of years ago spoke out and said he was actually against the idea of VAR because he felt it would take away some of what makes Scottish football, the raw emotion. I think this was at a stage when everyone had that big fear that maybe some people still have about, you know, VAR getting in the way of celebrations and stuff like that. Celebrating a last minute winner only for it to be chalked off by VAR. I feel like in general people have kind of moved beyond that a little bit. It's not as much of an issue, and I certainly I'm not as opposed to VAR as I was. I actually don't mind it. Like, it was used for the Leverkusen game recently. I rewatched the game the following morning. I think it was used maybe a couple of times in the match. Once for, I think, one of the Leverkusen goals, and once for, I think there was a chance early on in the game. It was either us or Leverkusen that they checked it afterwards. But at the game, I wasn't aware of it at all. Looking back, the play had perhaps stopped for 15-20 seconds, and you were maybe thinking, why is that? But I think being at the game in general, you're not really... It's not as big of an issue, certainly the way UEFA do it, as opposed to how they do it down south, or how they did it down south. So I'm certainly for it. They're talking about £1 million per season, £80,000 roughly per club. Obviously, £80,000 is much more to Ross County than it is to Celtic. Maybe they could even, work it out on a kind of pro rata basis on where you finish in the league. I don't know if that's fair, us having to pay more than a lower team, but if it means that it moves the league standard up, and let's face it, maybe attracts more players and more investment, if Scotland's seen to be at that kind of top level, then I'm not against paying a little bit more than Ross County.
No, I'm not. But I think it'll probably just be deducted from the TV money every season. I think the SFA are paying a third of it as well, so I think we only need to pay something like 55 to 60,000. I believe. I think the SFA are big fans of this. They want it to happen, and I think the referees union want it to happen too. So I think that's where this latest push has come from. And I think what's happening at the SFA today, I think it's a video conference, but I think what's happening is that they're basically being pitched on VAR, and I think Howard Webb, the former English referee, former World Cup final referee, is leading the pitch on VAR to the SPFL clubs, the Premiership clubs, and I think he implemented it in North America, so he knows ins and outs of it. So it'll be up for the clubs to decide ultimately, even if the SFA and the referees do want this, it will be up to the clubs. So it's an interesting one. I'm not sure if some of these teams will want to pay 60 grand a year. You know how petty Scottish football can be. There could be politics at play as well. We've seen votes on the SPFL go, silly ways sometimes, or become massively clouded due to the politics at play, and some clubs looking to get one up on the SPFL leadership. So who knows how it's going to play out, but I think it needs to happen.
I agree. Don saying the easiest way to do it would be to get a sponsor for the VAR decisions. Any shout? Specsavers is probably the obvious one that they would go for, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But no, I definitely think it's something we have to look. We have to. If there's countries like Kosovo, in Israel, and Slovakia, I think we're ahead of all those leagues in the coefficient table, and we don't have it, then I don't know what it says about Scottish football.
What have you got against Kosovo? You were going to get a Kosovan subscriber giving you pelters in the comments here. That's a shame, Hamish. I'm sure it's lovely. It's probably nice and sunny over there at the moment. It's grey and cloudy and rainy here.
I know. We'll probably get bodied out by a Kosovan team in the Champions League next year. Right, whenever we start talking geography, it's probably time to round it off, John. But anything else on your mind?
No, that's it. I'm desperate for Celtic to get back. I hate it on their national breaks.
They're horrid, aren't they?
They're garbage, and I really do not like them. So Celtic back as soon as possible, please, and hopefully we'll beat Motherwell.
Indeed, right. We may speak to you before then, maybe not though. Thanks everyone for tuning in to this video. Thanks everyone who's listened to the audio version as well. Remember to subscribe to the 67 Hail Hail channel on YouTube if you've not done it yet. We really would appreciate all of that. And after half an hour, we're going to head off. So take care everyone.